you're getting handcuffed and you're getting put in the back of the car. You get to juvenile hall. Like, what's going through your head?
I didn't really care. It was like fun. Like, I didn't care.
Welcome back. If you thought you knew all the shocking stories behind dance moms, think again, because this is part 2 of our deep dive into the crimes and controversies that have rocked the dance moms world. In the first video, we exposed some of the biggest legal issues and scandals that the cast would rather forget, but we're diving even deeper into the criminal activities and the alleged misconduct of even more cast members and key figures involved in the show. From bad checks to bankruptcy fraud and more allegations of abuse behind the scenes, we're about to unpack some of the most shocking moments that Dance Mom doesn't want you to know about. If you're ready for more of the real drama where the cameras couldn't hide the chaos, keep watching and let's get into it. Today we're diving into a scandal that might have flown under the radar for some of you. The time Jill Vertez, one of the more controversial moms from the show, found herself in legal hot water over writing bad checks. And we know Jill for her bold personality, fierce loyalty to her daughter, her little Kendall, and her many altercations with Abby Lee Miller. But what many don't know is that her financial past has some dark spots, and in 2005, Jill was charged with writing bad checks. Similar to Black Patsy, I guess, an incident that adds yet another layer to her already complex public persona. Let's break it down and see how this legal issue fits into the larger pattern of financial problems that many of the Dance Moms cast members faced. Well, here's the bad check incident. In May 2005, Jill Vertez was charged with writing bad checks. Now, for those unfamiliar with what that means, it's basically when someone writes a check for more money than their account has available, essentially writing a check that bounces. According to court records, Jill was charged with this offense on May 29, 2005, but by October 11, 2005, the charges were officially withdrawn. The reason for this? Well, Jill had paid a total of $43.05, county court, state court, and Commonwealth fees, which led to the charges being dropped. It's important to note that this doesn't mean Jill was off the hook completely. She still had to deal with the legal process and the financial costs involved in clearing her name. And all over $43. A deeper look at the financial struggles behind the scenes. Well, Jill Vertez's check writing incident is just one example of the financial struggles that have plagued some of the Dance Moms cast members. Financial issues weren't inclusive to just Jill. If you remember, Abby Lee Miller, the show's infamous choreographer, faced her own legal nightmare with bankruptcy fraud in 2017, where she was convicted for hiding over $775,000. But Jill's incident raises interesting questions about how financial challenges could have played a role in the tension behind the scenes. Jill was known for her driven, sometimes abrasive personality, especially when it came to Kendall's career. Did these financial difficulties impact how she interacted with the other moms, or was her Trump-supporting desire just to get ahead in the competitive dance world? I don't know. On the surface, Dance Moms was a show about young dancers, fierce competitions, and complicated family dynamics, but behind the scenes, some of its stars and their parents had histories that were far from glamorous. One of the most controversial figures on the show was Sari Lopez, the mother of Ariana Lopez. Despite her limited screen time, Sari's personal history has raised a lot of questions.
She thinks her daughter's the next Maddie. Tiffany needs to realize that Abby is going to be the one who picks the crown, not her.
Known for her appearances as a concerned mom on the show, Sari's past is tangled with serious legal issues that date back to the 1990s. Today we're taking a deep dive into the crimes that Sari Lopez has been involved in. Let's explore her past and how it connects to her time on Dance Moms.
I was always fighting, I was always in trouble. I got my first fight in kindergarten. Didn't take shit from people. Caught my first charge, it was a gun theft charge when I was 14.
Oh, okay.
So I started, so that was my first trip to juvenile. We stole guns. They sold the guns, and then they got fingerprinted and whatever, got traced back. So that was my first time visiting juvenile hall.
And you said you were like 14 years old.
Yes.
And this is in Washington.
Yes.
Okay. And how was that experience? Like, you're getting handcuffed and you're getting put in the back of the car. You get to juvenile hall. Like, what's going through your head?
I didn't really care. It was like fun. I didn't care.
Well, let's start with a crime that still shocks many. In 1995, Sari Lopez, then known as Sari DeSeth, was convicted of a crime that would have far-reaching consequences on her life. Sari was found guilty of possessing stolen property in the first degree. This crime led to an initial sentence of 4 months in jail, although she had already completed some time in juvenile detention.
So I waited till the cop got by my driver's side door, and I took off.
You're like, hey,
yeah. I was like, fuck it. So we got in a high-speed chase.
God.
Yeah, and I was always like that bad bitch. I didn't care, you know. Then I was hanging out with the same friends, and we were still stealing cars, and you know, so we were being watched because we were always stealing cars. So
after a while,
yeah. So
and it's probably the same area.
Yes, absolutely. And then the cops know who you are. The police know who you are. Absolutely. So the day that we got caught, I thank God I wasn't driving. There's a 15-year-old driving. One of my friends was 15. He was driving. You know, he doesn't even have a license, right? But whatever. We're in a stolen car. So we get in a high-speed chase again, and my friend in the back, like he's like putting together his gun, like he has, I don't know what kind of, like he had like a shotgun. I'm like, put that shit together. It says like, do not do that shit, you know? And so he's throwing out whatever he has out the window, and we're like doing like 90 down. It was like the morning. It was like early in the morning. It was like 10, 11 a.m. So it was like people going to work. So everybody's coming after us, and he's like trying to put together a gun. And I'm like, can you not do that? Like, we don't need to do that shit. Like, don't do that. You know what I mean? He puts the car into a pole. The pole comes in the middle of the car.
Oh my God.
So it's like a coupe too. It's a small car. So they get out and run. Like, I'm fucking stuck in the back. So of course I go to jail.
Yeah.
So I get arrested. You know, like I get charged. That time it was just like theft because it wasn't grand theft auto. I wasn't driving the car. I didn't get charged with the gun charge because he had it on him. He ran, but he had the gun on him. So whatever. So I go to jail, and that was my first time in adult jail.
Though she was ultimately granted a conversion of the sentence into 30 days of community service, on top of that, Sari was ordered to pay a $660 fine. This conviction remains a stark part of her history. So what does this early run-in with the law tell us about her character? Could it have been a sign of things to come? Let's keep going. Well, fast forward to 1999, nearly 4 years later, when Sari Lopez's legal troubles took another dramatic turn. On December 28th of that year, she was arrested for driving while intoxicated, or a DWI. Sari's actions behind the wheel led to her conviction and a subsequent sentence of 90 days in prison. However, that sentence was later suspended, meaning Sari didn't end up serving time. Still, she was left with a hefty fine, $1,900. This incident added to the mounting list of charges against her. In the early 2000s, things would get even darker. On July 11th, 2003, Sari Lopez was arrested once again, this time for the possession and delivery of heroin.
Started drinking again, partying, hanging out with the same friends. And then I met my second husband. And he's Hispanic, you know, and he sells drugs, so and that's all he does. So that's all, and that's my girls' dad, my two younger girls. I quickly get into that, you know, like I'd never been into selling drugs, you know. Obviously, I told you I never really that wasn't my thing. Mm-hmm. And so, but like he's already selling drugs. That's what he's doing. Like he's selling heroin, coke, like everything. He at that point they didn't have any of the shit they have now, like not fentanyl, but like that's when crystal meth first came out too. Mm-hmm. That was like the beginning of it. No more crank, now it's crystal, right? Mm-hmm. So like he sells it all. So he's like, and this is what he's been doing for years, you know, his whole life.
He's your age as well.
Yeah, he's like 2 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
So he's like 46 now. So like, but he's selling drugs. So I quickly got into that scene. He was like, well, you know, you could help. Like he didn't really push me into it. I pushed myself because I'm just a bad bitch.
You saw the
I'm just bad. Yeah, I'm like, hey, fuck it. I'll take it for you. I'll do this. I'll do that. Right.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So like I started like delivering for him or just dropping off. That way he was busy. I would do this or I'd hold on to this for him. But he wasn't like ever forcing it on me. He didn't really want me doing that. But that's just my lifestyle. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So I just jumped quickly into that. And then little did I know that Task Force was watching me like for several months. But that's actually what I got busted for. So I got charges on trafficking for drugs.
Where were you trafficking?
Well, I was that's what they charged me with. It was actually called trafficking, but I didn't do interstate. So I was at times taking drugs from Washington to Virginia. Oh. And actually we got like a one time, this is before I got caught. So we were, I did it a couple times. So in my car, so I'm with these, you know, Hispanic, you know, some Mexicanos. So they were like taking it to
some of your own kind.
Yeah, exactly. So we got like stopped in like Nebraska in the middle of nowhere. And they're like, and the police like in the middle of like cornfields and shit. They're like pulled us over, asked us what we're doing. And they I'm sure they knew because they're like, they asked me if they could search the car. And I didn't have a bad feeling. Okay, yeah, like what am I going to say? No.
Unlike her earlier charges, this one was much more serious. Well, you could say, because I don't think that a DUI or driving while impaired is a minimal crime, because you could literally kill someone, but to each their own. Sari pled guilty to the charges and in turn was sentenced to a staggering 33 months in prison. But that wasn't the end of her legal troubles. She was also given an additional 33 months of community custody and fined $2,920.50. The charges against her were undeniably severe and revealed a deeper pattern of troubling behavior. But taken together, these legal issues paint a picture of a woman who faced multiple challenges with the law long before she became involved in the world of dance moms. With a conviction for stolen property, a DWI charge, and a serious heroin-related arrest, Sari Lopez's history shows a disturbing trend. But how did this affect her time on the show? Was this the reason for her brief appearances on Dance Moms, or was there more to the story? Sari Lopez's journey is a complicated one, full of mistakes, challenges, and legal battles. Though she tried to distance herself from her past, it's impossible to ignore the weight of her criminal history. But her story is far from over, and as we continue to watch, we're reminded that even the most dramatic and controversial figures on reality TV often have a much darker past than what's shown on camera. The world of dance is often seen as a space for creativity, passion, and mentorship, but in some instances, those trusted with nurturing young talent have exploited their power for dark purposes. Today, we turn our attention to the unsettling case of Eric Eustacio Saratapon, often known as Eric Saratapon on the show, a former Temecula dance instructor who pled guilty to lewd acts with minors. His story is a tragic reminder of how abuse of trust can occur in even the most unlikely places. Let's dive into the details of his criminal acts, the legal proceedings, and the ongoing impact on the victims. If you don't remember this guy, he was the guy that was helping host the audition for Max Z and Maddie B's video that they were doing, that music video.
I'm like freaking out right now. I'm a huge fan of Maddie B. He's like one of my favorite singers on YouTube.
They're picking a lead girl, and this girl is going to sing vocals on the record.
I want to see what you guys, how you interpret the music and what you would bring to the set. Keep it upbeat, keep it fun, but don't rely on your tricks, because there's gonna be little to no tricks in this. Great performer. She looks down a lot. Thank you. Next, she is one of the stronger ones. More confidence.
Was that on purpose, the fall?
Yeah, but it was executed well. It's a little more mature. It's uncomfortable. I'll show you the difference, watch.
Yeah, that guy. Eric Saratapon, a 43-year-old dance instructor, had a career spanning over a decade at the Temecula Dance Company in California. His role was one of admiration. He was the director of hip-hop, teaching and inspiring the next generation of dancers. But in October 2020, Saratapon's professional life was shattered when he was arrested on charges related to lewd acts with minors. Authorities alleged that he had committed these acts with multiple young victims, some as young as 14 years old. The Riverside County Sheriff's Department conducted a search at his Temecula residence where they uncovered several pieces of evidence pointing to the nature of his crimes. Fast forward to April 2022 when Saratapon finally faced justice. He pleaded guilty to a series of felonies, including charges of committing lewd and lascivious acts on minors and engaging in sexual acts with individuals under 18 years old. The victims were 5 minors, all of whom had been a part of Saratapon's dance classes over the course of several years, from 2007 to 2019. These victims had trusted Saratapon as their teacher and mentor, unaware of the horrors he was subjecting them to behind closed doors. The charges were not only a violation of trust, but a betrayal of the very community that he was supposed to be guiding. This case has left lasting scars on the survivors, who have now been forced to relive the trauma inflicted upon them by someone they once admired. Saratapon's sentencing was scheduled for May 2022. As per the plea agreement, he faced serious consequences for his actions. While he avoided a trial by pleading guilty, the damage done by his actions is far from undone. The survivors of his abuse will carry the weight of his crimes with them for the rest of their lives, forever changing the trajectory of their journeys in dance and potentially in the rest of their life as well. This case underscores a grim reality for young people in many structured environments, whether that's sports, theater, or even dance. Power dynamics can make them especially vulnerable to predators, and Saratapon's case is a stark reminder of how abuse can often go unnoticed until it's too late. So what can we take away from Eric Saratapon's case? First and foremost, it's the importance of maintaining clear boundaries in environments that are meant to be safe havens for youth. Dance studios, like any other institution, have a responsibility to ensure the safety and well-being of their students. This case also highlights the necessity of vigilant oversight and accountability for those in positions of trust. Beyond that, it's essential to foster a culture where victims feel supported and perpetrators of abuse are held accountable. The dance community, as with any community, must come together to address these serious issues, ensuring that no one, especially children, are left to endure the devastating consequences of predatory behavior. Eric Saradpon's crimes were a betrayal of the very community that trusted him, and the survivors will carry that burden with them forever. Now, in the last video, we talked about the crimes of Grant Davies. In 2013, Grant Davies, choreographer of Broadway Blondes from Dance Moms and frequent masterclass teacher at the ALDC, was charged with sexual abuse and child porn. He had a total of 9 victims that have come forward to testify. It wasn't until 2016 that he was officially convicted and sentenced to 24 years in prison. He would essentially groom his students and obtain naked pictures of them, touch them, and send them very inappropriate text messages. His victims were all very young girls and boys around 10 to 14. When his victims would avoid his advances, he would reprimand them and ignore them during class as punishment. If the victims wanted him to stop, he would threaten them with violence. He would find and try to befriend mothers of little dancers in order to gain enough trust to be with their children. These are pictures of this sick man with the girls. These pictures were taken only 4 to 5 weeks before one dancer came out about his abuse. Well, it seems his sister Rebecca was privy to this information and didn't report him, and that is why we're adding Rebecca Davies to the list. Rebecca Davies, the co-owner of the studio and sister of Grant Davies, was aware of his inappropriate behavior but did not believe he would ever harm a child. This serves as a stark reminder that any form of inappropriate behavior, regardless of who it comes from, must be treated with the utmost seriousness. It should always be documented, investigated, and reported, following your local reporting protocols. Whether the person involved is male or female, young or old, or even someone you know and trust, it is crucial to understand that inappropriate behavior is never acceptable. Just because someone is familiar or appears non-threatening doesn't make their actions safe or excusable. Moreover, this situation highlights an essential truth. The behaviors we tolerate set the standard for what our children believe is acceptable. We owe it to them to set a high standard, where bodily autonomy and consent are always respected. Now, let's talk about Yolanda again, because this was left out of my last video. Well, Luke, Yolanda's son and Eliana's older brother, also came forward on TikTok, sharing that Yolanda has abused him and his siblings. He mentioned that he plans to post a video of Yolanda abusing Eliana, though so far he has shared videos that were originally posted on Instagram by a fan account. One of these videos shows Eliana being stretched while crying, with Yolanda telling her she isn't allowed to ask how many repetitions she's supposed to do, among other things. As we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive into the shocking legal issues surrounding the Dance Moms cast, it's clear that the drama off the stage is just as intense as what was shown on screen. From arrests to scandals, these stories are proof that not everything is as picture perfect as it seems in the world of reality TV. But the question remains, how much do the public's perceptions of these stars really change when the cameras stop rolling? If you found this video eye-opening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until then, stay tuned, stay informed, and stay sparkly. And remember, sometimes the truth is far more complicated than what meets the eye.